There is much to be learned from people who have lived on this land much longer than we have. A knowledge that manifests itself not only in their relationships with nature, their songs and epics, their technology and creations, but in their very survival. Only by being aware of this heritage of the indigenous can we find not only our roots, but our direction. Their pride and ours, captured in one word, Dayaw. In an age of increasing globalization, we Filipinos are constantly reminded to look back to the vast stores of indigenous knowledge that, like our own natural resources, are in danger of being forever lost. We have much to learn from our indigenous peoples, vast stores of knowledge, technologies, and ways of life that guaranteed not only survival, but a distinct identity. Lupa, Karagatan, Kagubatan, an environment that inspired their indigenous peoples to make the best use of resources while guaranteeing a precious balance, a balance where we are so in danger of losing today. Grand to look at, astounding to behold. Challenging to understand. The Ifugao rice terraces represent a dynamic indigenous response to the environment. One that combines hard work and tenacious industry with a deep understanding of how our forests, watersheds, mountainous terrain, and engineering can come together to guarantee a people's survival. The age of these terraces is much debated. Some scholars have said that these marvels are 2,000 or 3,000 years old. Recent archaeological evidence points to a much later dating and posits that these terraces were built by the lowland ancestors of the Ifugaos who were fleeing the Spanish colonizers. But whether they are 3,000 or 300 years old, what is most astounding is that the Ifugao have carved from the Gran Cordillera mountain range an entire system capable of supporting life, sustaining natural resources, and enhancing a vibrant culture. While we see tourist attractions, the Ifugao see their very survival and the environment that must be harnessed sustainably. In Kinakin, a village not normally on the tourist route, we learn the ways in which these payo, the terrace fields, are a result of a complex system of knowledge that has served the Ifugao well.
Itong rice terraces na ito, we called it chape rice terraces. It's a part of the study of Hollow Conquin based in Bayninan, isang sitio ng Kinakin. Doon nag-stay si Conquin, pinag-aralan yung culture, rice field ng mga tao doon sa Bayninan sitio. I think yung pangalan na ito, chape means parang nag-i-slow na terraces. If you could see yung akyat, katapos yung creek, nakadirect yung irrigation sa terraces. Pakikita natin in more angles dito sa chape rice terraces. Ito ang pinaka-best, among the best of the terraces in Kinakin, sa barangay Kinakin.
The Ifugao system of terracing begins first with irrigation.
Itong mga tubig, ma'am, galing sa mga forest namin, sa communal at saka private forest. Doon galing yung mga tubig na nakikita natin. Pagkatapos minimaintain namin din yung mga forest areas. Meron tayong kanal na ginagawa. At saka yung mga ito, yung direct na galing sa creek, maggagawa tayo ng harang tapos pupunta yung tubig sa rice field. Galing doon sa taas, yung forested area. Tapos dito naman sa baba, meron private forest pero protected. Tanim namin kahoy para meron tayong supply ng water sa rice fields natin. Through gravity, kasi from the taas, tapos pababa. Initially, galing sila sa creek. Pagkatapos dinalagyan ng maliit na irigasyon papunta sa rice paddies.
The watersheds that feed the payo do so with nothing simpler or more durable than bamboo tubes or roughly hewn cairns. The Ifugao have worked out traditional systems of social sharing in which the precious water is distributed equally among families. The hardest work goes into building and maintaining these terraces. No matter how sturdy they may look, a storm, a sudden surge of too much water can cause the walls to collapse. And we have nothing more than simple tools and muscle. The walls must be rebuilt again, the water distribution systems restored. Then the hard work of creating and maintaining the stone walls begins.
Yung ibang stone walls, naabutan namin. Pero yung kadalasan na nakikita natin, yung nagre-repair na. Yung halimbawa, nasira na stone walling, rini-repair namin. Bago mag-start ng cultivation ng rice field, yan na, inumpisa na yung stone walling. May the time na naayos na yung stone walling na umakyat na dito, yan na, taniman na, pati yung na-erode kasama sa tinataniman na. Ito yung mga natutunan namin sa mga ninuno namin, mga parents namin. Kasi palagi, alam mo yung hanap buhay namin dito, taniman lang na ganito. Kahit once a year, pero tinuturo sa amin paano mag-alaga, paano magtanim ng palay. Ito ma'am yung sinasabi natin na foundation. Sabi namin dito sa Ifugao, gopnad. Kung nakikita natin, malalaki yung dito sa baba, followed by yung medyo maliliit ng konti, hanggang akyat dito sa taas. Kailangan pag patas din yung pare-parehas yung pare-pareho nung stone walling. Walang semento na ginagamit namin dito, yung soil, yung lupa na pagdikit sa bawat stone wall, bato.
So important are the terraces that the matter of inheritance must always be settled beforehand to avoid division in the family.
Just after marriage, tinuro sa amin yung palayan mo, rice field mo, ito sa iyo. Ituturo yung boundaries or ilan paddies, ilan area ng rice field. Yung partidos ng asawa mo, sila na ang mag-aani. That shows na ibigay sa inyo. Yung ani, pagkatapos, yun din ang sasabihin namin sa mga anak namin. Na ito rin yung ina-inherit namin sa magulang namin, ito rin para sa inyo. Sinabi ko sa mga anak ko, I'm encouraging them na dapat alam nilang magtanim, mag-alaga ng rice field. Kasi iyon yung, dito galing yung supply natin sa rice.
I find it a great irony that the Philippines now has to import rice when the Ifugaos mastered such rugged terrain to be able to produce it. Of course, times have changed and populations have grown dramatically. But what do we stand to lose by carefully looking at how the Ifugaos worked the mountains, not to change them, but to make the best of what nature had challenged them with? All over the Cordillera region, our indigenous peoples have developed their own ingenious and innovative methods of land use that are both respectful and creative. Terracing is not exclusive to the Ifugao. Other indigenous groups have also developed their own forms of terracing, whether on gentle slopes or high plateaus. The terraces of the Cordillera are studies in natural form dictating function and purpose. Along with such adaptation come belief systems, architecture, ritual, and custom in such animist societies as the Ifugao. Nature, its spirits, its features, its rhythms, and cycles are what shape the way they live, believe, and commune with the deities and with one another.
Ayap pahubriyan at kinumon ti pahirap na yaat ti ayamun okpok aliyo yamun ok yala nakin ang kyahayan na.
From the mountains to the seas and to the adventure of one very modern man who looked at and experienced for himself the ways in which the Sama Dilaut of Sulu mastered the seas. In an archipelago such as ours, why do many of us know so little about the boat-building techniques that allowed our ancestors to travel, trade, and even live on the waters surrounding our islands? For generations, the master boatmen or tukang of Sulu, specifically Sibutu Island, have been turning out boats known for their speed, lightness, ability to ride the waves. The kumpit, kampuan, sapit, and bira-bira are only 4 of the variants of the boat form that the Sibutu masters are expert in building. With such vessels as these, the traders of Sulu traversed the waters of Holo, reaching as far as Borneo, Malaysia, and Brunei. The secret of these boats is a hull designed to ride the waves. The main body is constructed from planks that the tukang constructs, not from paper plans, but from his own combination of practical know-how and memory. The body of the boat, with its streamlined hull, is constructed from logs first, before the rib framework or gusok is put in. This simple, elegant form was designed to be powered by the wind, but it is so versatile, it can be adapted to motor and diesel engine. A testament to a technology that is as old as a balanghais, and yet as current as any yacht. One man chose to experience this technology for himself, and it was the adventure of his life.
Well, actually, it started after coming down from Mount Everest. We thought, what's next? Why not build the boat that our forefathers used in their waves of migration, and as authentic as possible? What happened then was that I went here at the National Museum, talked to the archaeological section, and asked for advice. And they said that this is how the boat was built. They gave me a handbook of Father Alcina, the Jesuit maritime priest during Spanish time. And I looked at it and I said, who can build this boat? He said, no one now among the people, except if you go to Batanes, the Ibatans built the same kind of boat, or you go to Tawi-Tawi, the Sama Dilaya, they still built that kind of boat. So I went to Tawi-Tawi and looked at how they built the boats, and that's how it started.
Displayed in one of the courtyards of the National Museum is the very boat that Art Valdez commissioned from the Sama Dilaut. He encouraged them to use all their knowledge in constructing this one boat in as traditional a manner as possible.
Then I saw that it's still the traditional way of boat building, shell-first construction. If you've noticed, the modern boat building is that once the keel is set, they put up the ribs and then the walls or the sidings. But the shell-first construction is that you have the keel and then you build planks. You build a shell of this kind. And then the ribs is the last part that you put it together. So I went out and did research, and I asked the National Museum that I can build an authentic balangay based from the diggings in Butuan. And that's how the boat was built.
Valdez experienced for himself just how effective this method of building was. And he was amazed to find out that the master builders could calculate and design based purely on experience and memory.
But I was not content enough because I'd like to ensure that the boat is really fit to travel in open seas. So while they're building the boat, I also asked the Society of Naval Architects and Maritime Engineers that the boat we're building is also technology-wise, based on science, is really fit to sail on open seas and even oceans at that. And they made a hydrostatic study on the performance of the boat because I asked the master builder, Asama Delaya, what is the draft? How deep is the water for this boat to float? At 2 feet of water, it will float. And then I asked the naval architects, what is the result of your hydrostatic study of the boat? And they said that, sir, at 18 inches, your boat will float. Science has confirmed their technical capability to build that kind of boat.
In a courtyard of the National Museum, Art Valdez's boat sits far away from the rough seas it has journeyed on. 18 men accompanied him, his friends from the Mount Everest team, Coast Guard, and the Navy. But the most indispensable were the Sama boat builders themselves.
Especially at the time when the seas become so rough, and they have to tell me, sir, hindi na natin kaya yan eh. Ay, sir, wag na tayong didiretso, hanap muna tayo ng isla pagtaguan. They're quite familiar of the performance of the boat kung kaya talaga namin yung sobrang laki ng alon. The boat is powered by the wind and steered by the stars. Celestial navigation. That's how it was. And we try to be as faithful as possible, the way our forefathers said. This has been handed from generation to generation. That would explain why, that indeed we're really a maritime people.
The mountains, the seas, both are equally demanding environments, yet the Ifugaos of the Cordilleras and the Sama Dilaot of Sulu have mastered these environments. Or is mastered really the right word? Did they simply and over time study their environments and make the best of what they had without really trying to conquer anything? What other knowledge systems were born out of a respect for the environment? And what treasures of our intangible heritage did they yield? The environment as a source of music and art. But of course, among the Palaweños, the forests and skies over their mountain homes are inspiration for their unique music. A music that echoes the very songs of the birds and the wind. The people of Pala-wan have no monumental structures of architecture, agriculture, or technology. The people of Pala-wan have a very fine artistic tradition of mat and basket weaving, considered the most colorful and intricate in the country. Their tingkop baskets are masterpieces of delicate, painstaking, skillful art. And they can be proud of a unique form of intangible heritage, a language of music that is a direct response to nature. It was the renowned anthropologist Nicole Revel who studied the ways of life of the semi-nomadic Palawanon. Her studies revealed a unique musicology that was inspired by and responded to the sounds of the sheltering forests. In this rare footage, the late Gawad Manlilikha ng Bayan or Gamaba awardee Masino Intaray demonstrates the complex rhythm patterns etched out on the simplest of instruments.
There are so many things that we can learn from the animist groups. One of the most important is that the animists, that's why they're called animists, believe that everything is animated by the life principle. That means everything is alive. Rocks, water, earth, fire, all of these are alive, especially trees. The moment you believe that trees, mountains have spirits, you'll be afraid to destroy. You'll be afraid to log forests just for timber, because there are beings inside them. Once you lose the idea that nature has spirits, then you will no longer respect nature.
When we see what we have done to our forests, our coastlines, our mountains, we don't just see crimes against the environment. By destroying these, we have also taken away from our indigenous peoples their sources of life, their identities, the very sounds of nature that inspires art as complex as any way we can create. A collage of images and connections. That is how we've envisioned Dayaw, a mountain range and its terraces, the sea and the vessels that ride its waves, a forest and the music that both nature and man create. Always show how our indigenous peoples and different environments all over the archipelago have developed not only survival skills and technologies, but a vital art as well, a true source of Dayaw, our knowledge, our pride.